Hey guys, whether you're new or old, be sure to like, share the video, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at True Troops for more basketball content. Donovan Mitchell trade rumors are ramping back up with how the Cavaliers' season is going so far, and with the injury news to Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. They're both going to be out for quite some time. Given the Cavs' injuries and their lackluster start, I think it makes sense that they explore trading Donovan Mitchell, given that he has shown an unwillingness to commit to them long term, and he's going to be a free agent in 2025. And everyone knows how much he likes being in New York. You know, he wanted to be in New York when he requested a trade from Utah. And New York obviously is in the market for a superstar caliber player. So, should the Cavs explore trading Donovan Mitchell, given what's going on with them so far this season?
I think they have to. It's inevitable that this team just doesn't work together. I think the Cavs have to make some serious changes. I think Garland and Mobley are good building blocks, but I think the Allen Mobley fit, it just doesn't work. Mobley doesn't space the floor well enough. I would have liked to have seen him improve to be a bit more of a floor spacer, but he doesn't space the floor enough for that Cavs size to be a real threat. It's just really clunky. It's not like in Minnesota with Towns and Gobert or in Boston for years, with Horford and Porzingis. Like it's not like that. And Mitchell is older. Like he doesn't really fit the timeline of Garland necessarily that much, or Mobley. They also, because they traded for Mitchell, their depth like is a real issue. They have like five, maybe six good players. I'll give you Karras maybe off the bench. But like if you think about it, if you include Mitchell, so it's like Garland, Mitchell, Max Strus has been good for them this year. Mobley, Allen, and what, Karras? Am I forgetting anybody off the bench? George Niang. I don't think Isaac Okoro. It's just a weak roster. It's relatively thin. Bickerstaff's not a coach I'm in love with. And I just think it's the right thing to do. Because I think the team structure as a whole is massively flawed. And I think when they first made this trade for Mitchell, we still thought like Mitchell has taken a team to be the best team in a conference. He's done that. And he's done that with Rudy Gobert defensively at center. They had Jarrett Allen. They had good size. Mobley can defend. Like there wasn't like this. We weren't worried about the small backcourt because of the size and the paint. But we also expected Mobley to be better than what he has been. And Garland, honestly, turns the ball over too much for my liking. And considering that they're not a great defensive backcourt and they don't have the necessary depth or the coaching that I really respect, the Cavs find themselves in a situation right now. And we've talked about it in the past. Like Cleveland had to win this year. They had to at least go to the second round of the playoffs, minimum, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And especially with the injuries now that they're facing, it's going to be tough to win games.
Yeah, I think you make a good point with Mobley and Garland. They're a little younger than Donovan Mitchell. I think the idea was that if Garland and Mobley continued to improve, that the team, along with acquiring Mitchell, they could reach that level in the Eastern Conference. But Garland has kind of been the same player he was when he made the All-Star team a few seasons ago. Mobley, I was just looking at his stats while you were talking. His stats have been pretty much the same since his rookie season. So
Yeah.
then we haven't seen that in, that improvement from them to continue to carry that team to be better. And with, teams in the East getting better, Milwaukee, Boston, Orlando out of nowhere, even Philly has been pretty dominant so far with the way Joel Embiid is playing. They have had so much trouble. It doesn't make sense for them, I think, to hold on to Mitchell, especially if he's going to leave. And of course, there's a bunch of teams I think that would line up to get him. I think the Knicks obviously is one. The Thunder have the assets if they wanted to acquire him. The Nets, we've talked about, could also make a pretty good deal. I think the Heat would also be interested. And maybe even the Lakers, the Sixers, would also be interested. And I think the Thunder and the Nets can offer the best deal. The Thunder have just a ridiculous amount of draft picks, whether from the Clippers or from the Rockets. And then you have the Nets who have the Suns picks, and you're very high on those Suns picks because the Suns kind of, they're in their own mess of their own, and they don't look like they're going to have a long sustained success. So those picks in the future will be very valuable. But I do think the Knicks are obviously the most desired spot. I guess Brooklyn will kind of be the same. Still in New York, but I think he's had some affinity for the Knicks for whatever reason. I was just exploring what a Knicks trade could look like. I think RJ would definitely have to go, and then you kind of take a combination of maybe Josh Hart, Emmanuel Quickly, Quentin Grimes, Fournier, and then you have to throw in a couple first rounders. And I think that would be good for the Knicks. It allows them to hold on to Randall, to Brunson, hopefully to Mitch, and it still gives them flexibility to make a move for a top tier superstar in the future, whether it be Embiid or someone of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we were texting last night. The Knicks move is something that I've been warmed up to now because when they were originally in the rumors for Mitchell, I was kind of like, all right, small backcourt, I don't know and they're also dealing with Danny Ainge. They're not dealing with Danny Ainge anymore. They're dealing with Colby Altman. But I think the thing that with the Knicks is that they're clearly hungry to trade for a star at this point. They made that very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And trading for Mitchell, I think would shush the criticism or the heat on them as a franchise for the moment because he is an all-star and he would be their best player. I know Jalen Brunson dropped 50 the other day. I know Jalen Brunson outplayed Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs last year. But I think you can agree Donovan Mitchell is a better player than Brunson.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though, but Brunson is still obviously like it's not like way off. It's
Oh
just
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I think those two together can still be very powerful. And the key there is going to be Mitchell Robinson, which we talked about through text. The problem is can Mitchell Robinson stay healthy for an 82 game season? He kind of hasn't. He's had an injury history, and he's going to be out for a while. And I'm not sure if you're relying on Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein and Taj Gibson,
Oh my
but
God.
but I think and just to quickly as a side note, Cleveland trading for Donovan Mitchell is going to be a mistake because we're going to look at it as a mistake because it didn't really go anywhere with it. But, I think it was a risk worth taking. They didn't think Lauri Markkanen was going to be the player he was in Utah that he's been. And Donovan Mitchell is a really good player. And sometimes you bet on a timeline too early. Minnesota has done that with Rudy Gobert. It's working right now. Didn't look like it was going to work last year, but it's working. Cleveland has had some bad luck. Like Mobley hasn't developed the player that you want him to be yet. Same with Garland, I think, too. And that's why they're in that situation. But as far as the Knicks goes, I think you're right. I think to me, the trade is Barrett, Grimes, and a couple picks. Because I honestly think like a lot of teams may be interested in Mitchell, but I think his favoritism is going to matter here. Like, I don't think he's going to want to go to Orlando, even though he makes a lot of sense there. I don't think he's going to go to Oklahoma City, even though he makes a lot of sense there. I mean, maybe Presti does what he did with Paul George and he trades for him anyway. And who knows, especially with the whole Giddey situation, it's kind of like, what the heck do they do now? Do they get Donovan Mitchell in there, get some more shooting and shot creation? But I look at it from that perspective, and I just think that the three teams are the Heat, the Nets, and the Knicks. And I refuse to take the Miami Heat seriously because they're very stingy on every trade ever. And I called that months ago. Damian Lillard was theirs, and they somehow did not get him. Like somehow, just didn't get him because they
Yep.
weren't willing to give up freaking Jovic, and who's not
Yep.
even playing for them.
Exactly.
So I look at that stuff. I refuse to take the Heat seriously in any trade. And I think it's just going to come down to the Nets and the Knicks. And I think it's going to come down to which team wants him more. And I honestly, today, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if I'm Cleveland, I want those Suns picks and I want Cam Thomas. Because Cam Thomas fits my window. He's cheaper and he's putting up 24 points per game right now. He just dropped 40 against the Warriors last night. Young guy. Mitchell, Cam Thomas on the same team together is weird.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Mitchell also has Brooklyn but it's up to the Nets. Like, do they want to trade again and give up picks and draft capital that honestly look really good right now? And who knows how much they would have to give up. I think it would be no more than three. And I think even like a protection would be put on them. Same with the Knicks. I don't think the Knicks would give up more than three draft picks. And I think Barrett and Grimes is like all right. That's an all right return. Because I don't think they want Randall or anything. But I think the Cavs are gonna look at the Nets specifically and they're like, okay, Mitchell will probably want to go to that team and those draft picks we want. But do the Nets want to trade those draft picks? And honestly, I don't think they do.
That big key in that, yeah. Those graphics, I mean, they could be really, really good considering just what happens to the Suns in the next couple seasons, given
Mm-hmm.
that they really have no plan going forward.
Yeah. Honestly, Dan, like I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I would be more comfortable trading our own draft picks in like 28 and 29 and 27 than those Suns picks. That's how valuable I think those Suns picks are. And I know no one's really talking about it, but Phoenix is going through some stuff right now, and they have no option to get better. Like no way to get better. And they're old. Just saying, man.
Yeah, I think ultimately it'll come down to who wants to make the move more. You know,
Hmm.
if
Yeah.
the if the Nets have to part with Suns picks and Cam Thomas or one or the
Yeah.
other, that would be
Hmm.
very hard, I think, for them just because of
Yeah.
how the upside that Cam Thomas has. I know I'm not sure a lot of Nets fans see it as that way. They think he's just a good player, he can score. But I mean, he's clearly one of your best players, and on nights he is your best player.
Honestly, here's the thing. Then I hate to be this dude who's annoying, but it's true. The people who don't know what they're talking about think Cam Thomas is a six man on this team. And he's dropped 40, 30 too many times to be labeled as that.
Mm-hmm.
He's by far the best scorer on this team. You just saw, like, if you watched the Nets Warriors game last night, Mikal Bridges was awful. He was 6 for 17, missed the easy gimme layup at the end.
Yeah.
I don't mind going to him at the end there because he's actually been a pretty clutch player this year. But Thomas, the way just watch him play basketball. I understand Mikal Bridges plays defense. I'm not trying to turn this into a Nets thing because this relates to the Cavs. Cam Thomas's star level scoring ability and the fact that he's so young, like if I'm Cleveland, that's who I'm going after. And we'll see. But if I'm Sean Marks, I don't know. Like I'm very torn about this as a Nets fan, specifically with Mitchell. I think it's gonna come down to like if the Knicks offer, let's say the Knicks offer three firsts and then maybe one swap or one protected. Like I don't think the Nets outbid. I think the Nets let that trade happen, and I think he's a Knick at that point.
If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe to the video. You can also check out the JB podcast. Everything, all the information will be in the description. I'd like to thank you for watching the video, tuning into the episode. We'll be back next week on an episode of Trueish Hoops. Thanks, James.
Thank you.